Imagine a computer program that tracks every move you make, at least once you get behind the wheel. That's the idea behind a growing auto insurance software being used in Canada. Instead of a premiums determined by gender or the make and model of a car, drivers are now billed based on how they actually drive. Paul-André Savoie is President and CEO of Baseline Telematics. Great to have you with us.
Great to be here.
So let's start with how it works before we get into what some of the critics might say about this. How does the actual software manage the data?
Well, when you think about car insurance, it's been around as long as cars have been around, and the way that insurance is being rated is just completely outdated. So when you look at getting a quote for insurance these days, an insurer will ask you about 30 different questions. You don't understand why. All they're trying to do is figure out what your risk profile looks like. Well, with telematics insurance, or usage-based insurance as it's most likely called, an insurer is now able to charge you on a monthly basis for the exact risk that you represent. So based on how much mileage you do and based on how those miles are actually driven, whether they're safe or unsafe.
Okay, so I've got a whole bunch of questions that many people are watching are going to have. Let's start with the big brother aspect of this. Somebody is watching my driving habits. Why would I be incentivized to do that? Is there some massive discount I'm going to get in my insurance by allowing them to do that?
Certain segments of the market are going to have much greater benefits than others. You can imagine teen drivers who have no track record to speak of and are paying, orders of magnitude greater for their premiums. They typically save up to 40 to 50% on their premiums when insured through one of our participating insurance companies. So there is a major financial incentive to do this. Of course, the big brother issue is a major concern, and most of the implementations are really opt-in only, so never will a system like this be imposed on anyone.
Although you could see the appeal of it being imposed because, of course, this is one part, and we were talking about this recently, one part of the insurance industry that is mandated, and so premiums are also mandated by governments. So there's some appeal in actually having people pay for whatever their individual risk is, similar to if I want to build my house in a floodplain, I should actually pay a little bit more for insuring that home.
Yeah.
Why not have this be, you could picture it as being something that actually the government insists everybody use?
Well, we are working with SGI, the government insurer in Saskatchewan. We're doing a pilot project with them specifically on motorcycles. They insure about 25,000 motorcycle riders in the province. They have about $25 million in revenue, but every year they're paying over $50 million in claims. So they'd have to double the premiums just to break even without having to charge, the auto policy holders to make up for the difference. So telematics is something that they really believe, and we believe also, is going to help improve the loss ratio of those drivers. Technically speaking, around the world, telematics is about 10 years old now, and any program in place is typically saving 30 to 40% of claims for insurance companies today. So those savings can be passed on to consumers right away.
Let's go to the next level. Obviously, one of the biggest problems with automobiles all around the world is alcoholism or people drinking when they drive.
Absolutely.
I'm an investor in a company, just for full disclosure, that's doing sensor technology to put in cars to stop people from starting them if they have any alcohol in their breath. Why not just attach it to this system? Why not make that a mandatory element, and is that something you're looking at?
Well, we've actually been approached by certain departments of motor vehicle around the world as a complementary solution for systems that are imposed on drivers who lose their license for drinking and driving with the breathalyzers, immobilizers. So you can imagine, in Quebec alone, 40,000 people a year lose their license for speeding. No alcohol involved. So you can imagine this could be an interesting approach to allow people to have a graduated reinsertion to driving without even losing their license.
The young people are obviously going to be one prime area for all of this stuff, even if it is, as Kevin's noting, the ways that you develop technology into new spaces. Are you getting support from parents for this?
Very much so. In fact, the first program we launched in Quebec with Industrial Alliance called Mobilize is aimed at the young drivers, so 16 to 24-year-old, typically a segment that no insurer wants to insure due to the high loss ratios that are incurred. And they've had astronomical growth. It's just been very successful with very little advertising and traditional media. It's been very viral. Young drivers are going on Facebook. They're posting their savings and their behavior reports, and so the growth has just been really astronomical without the typical advertising budgets, which again is another savings that's passed on to the consumer.
Can I see these behavior reports as a parent? Can I log on to a website and see how many times my son has been speeding in my car?
Yes, actually the policyholder has a portal and an app they can download on any smartphone to see how they're doing in real time. On top of that, they receive an email every week to see how they're doing compared to the week before and how they're doing for their next invoice. We generate invoices on a monthly basis, a lot like a cell phone. So it really is pay as you drive both on a per kilometer basis and a behavioral. We look at 3 types of behaviors primarily to determine the aggressivity index of your driving score, mainly the speed. So we check how fast you're driving compared to the posted speed limit every minute as you're driving. We look how often you're doing hard braking, which is an indicator of distracted driving, and hard accelerations, which obviously is a very aggressive driving pattern.
Very scary.
And these things also lead to higher fuel costs. So by driving safer and smoother, you're not only paying less for insurance, you're actually saving fuel as well.
And just quickly here, you mentioned a couple of jurisdictions where the insurance is actually run by the province rather than spun out to the private sector. Are you also getting similar support from private sector insurance companies in places like Ontario where it has been spun out?
A lot of interest. In fact, the challenge now with insurers in markets that are highly regulated, such as Ontario, is to generate the kind of data that a regulator needs to see before approving new rate filings. And so without precedent in Ontario, and without the ability to use Quebec or international precedent, it is definitely our biggest challenge right now. But we're getting a lot of support. We're working with over a dozen insurers right now that are planning various types of launches in Ontario and elsewhere in the country.
Paul-André, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you.
Paul-André Savoie is President and CEO of Baseline Telematics. Coming up after the break, we'll reach into the inbox and tackle a